Hello and welcome back, my partners in crime. Welcome back to Murder Analysed for our case 17 of our, this missing persons campaign that we're doing to highlight the missing from all over the world and around all different places, different ages, different people, men, women, children. Now this case is from Ireland, and this case is the disappearance of Philip Cairns. Now, Garda police, or the police in Ireland, have renewed their appeal for information on missing person case involving a Dublin schoolboy who vanished without a trace way over 35 years ago. The 13-year-old Philip Cairns remains one of the most high-profile missing persons cases in Ireland to date. It's really, they haven't stopped. This case is still open. People are still looking. People still want information. This family still needs answers. So come on. This is a very, very sad case. Another kid disappeared without a bloody trace. I mean, gosh, it's just terrible, isn't it? I just do these cases and I think sometimes, I just think another one, So please, if you know anything, listen to this case. If you know anything, say something. Really. So anyway, he disappeared on the afternoon of October 23rd, 1986, and he was walking home from school, and it's in south of Dublin. I'll put up everywhere. I'm not even going to try and say the names of it, but I'll put up slides with all the different names and the things where you can see. But South Dublin, and it was 1986 case, and it was the 23rd of October that this boy just disappeared without a trace. So this case, listen, it's baffling, isn't it? Really, the police are baffled, the Garda police are baffled. Everything, the family doesn't understand it. No one really understands it. This kid is not a runaway, so I think we can clear that right from the off. He's not a runaway, but from that day, he has never been seen since. So what the investigations are trying to do is track really what happened to him in any way at that time. Now this case has been really highlighted everywhere and will continue to be highlighted until someone really is prosecuted for this boy, because they have said, and I think it's obvious, isn't it, from the amount of time he's gone missing and there has been no sight or sound of him since, that this boy was probably murdered. This is probably an abduction and murder. So we would be now looking for a body, and I think the police and the Garda police have been looking for bodies for quite some time, digging up different places in relation to this case. But it's just, I think when you read about the family, what their questions are: what sort of person would do this to someone? They believe it's someone that he may have known or local to that area. They do believe that. But I don't think you can rule anything out here when you have an abduction or, maybe a suspected abduction and murder of a child. I don't think you can rule out anything. So I think if you know anything, or, please come forward and say it. So anyway, Philip, he was born on the 1st September 1973, and he disappeared on the afternoon of the 23rd of October 1986 while walking back to school in South Dublin, Ireland. Now the 13-year-old schoolboy had left his home in Ballyroan, I'll put it all up because I probably got it wrong, on that afternoon, and he had not been seen since. Now, there was this large-scale investigation that was carried out, and literally there was no trace of him. This boy has just never been seen of again since. Now, when I show you the photos of the alleyway and his housing, I would have thought that someone would have seen something, but they didn't. So listen, this case has been recategorised, hasn't it, over the years, and now it is recategorised, I think, as this high-profile child murder case. And really, as they said, it's the only similar murder being to the Robert Houlihan murder in January 2005. And I'm going to take a look at that case. That's a different case. But it's one of the most high-profile disappearances in recent history of Ireland. So, you can, do we think that this boy still could be in Ireland somewhere? Yes. Is it possible that he could have been took over borders or across the sea into England? Yes, it is. It really is. Do I think that's probable? No. I think he's probably still in with that area. I don't think he would have been moved out of Ireland, but in them day, 1986, it could have been. He really could have been. Now, Philip's family have issued really numerous appeals for information about this. Reconstruction took place in 2007 and it was later televised on the RTE1, while a reward of €10,000 had been offered, but no one has ever been arrested with this case, and it still to this day remains open. I don't think this case will ever be closed. The sort of timeline of Philip was he'd gone to school in the morning, right? Everything's fine, he'd just gone to school. But a lot of kids, including my kids when they were younger, and especially in 1986, used to come home for lunch. I used to come home for lunch. I bet many of you did. If you couldn't afford, your lunch meals or whatever at school, my mum used to say, we only lived down the road from the school, come home and she'd make us something to eat. At least she knew we was getting fed, she said. So it's not, nothing wrong in 1986 for this boy to be coming home from school in the afternoon to get something to eat. He'd have his lunch, then he'd walk back to school, because in them days you were allowed to do that. That's what we did in 1986 and beyond that. But the problem is, with what happened with Philip, is yes, he'd come home and everything, and I think he departed his school at about 12:45, and that was it. He had something to eat, he left his home at 1:30 to return back to the school. Never returned. That was it. He was gone. So his family have stated from that sort of quickness, and someone that maybe known his routine, that he had been coming home, from school each day to have his lunch, that maybe it was someone he knew personally, someone that knew that routine, maybe waited for him, offered him a lift, offered him sweets, something. And that was it. That's what they believe happened, really, because it was such a quick timeline and it was something that he'd done regular. So it probably was someone local or someone that knew him, really. Or it could have been, couldn't it, really, when you think about it? A lot of these is an opportunist, killer or predator that's just seen him walking back, but he did come down an alleyway. It's a bit strange. So listen, there was a large-scale search all over, rivers, mountains, forests, lakes. Psychics and clairvoyants were called in. Everyone was called in to find out information on this boy. There just wasn't anything. Police put posters up on milk companies, put posters up and on cartons. They done everything, really, to find this kid. Again, all his classmates were interviewed, to everything. And no one knew anything of this boy. Now, the strange thing was, 6 days after his disappearance, Philip's school bag was located by two girls in an alleyway close to his house. Now, that lane had already been searched and there was no bag there at the time, or for a few days after that. And then all of a sudden, his school bag turned up in the alleyway. That was it. There was some of his stuff in it, but a few stuff were missing, like a few books and stuff, and that were missing. And they knew now that someone had put that bag there way after Philip went missing. Now, that bag is still now being kept by the police in a sealed, properly sealed. It had been tested on different occasions for DNA, but as I always say, DNA advancements are getting much more, intense now. We can tell a lot of things by very minute pieces of DNA. They have tested lots of DNA because there's been multiple people put forward for this, and it hasn't been none of them, and that's been proven actually because of the DNA on that bag. And there would be DNA on that bag because if someone's gone through his school bag, took stuff out of his school bag, like school books, I think there were some religious books taken, bits like that, their DNA would be on that bag. And at this point, no DNA that have been put forward of people, of paedophiles and everything else in that area that's been put forward have ever came out with any hits. Not as yet. There has been 400 sightings of this boy, but none of these have ever been confirmed. Also, one said that Philip was reported in Manchester, United Kingdom, after his disappearance. Also, that's not credible. There was nothing that in that either. As I said, I don't believe that this boy's made it out of Ireland, to tell you the truth. I really don't. I think, Ireland, as I've said before, there's places in Ireland where you can dispose of a body and they may not be found for years. And, Unfortunately, I do believe he's probably still in Ireland, and this is why the police continue to dig up different areas. But they do search, and they do take notice of every piece of information that comes in to this day, that they look at that new evidence that comes in. If someone says something or has done something, you know, a tip comes in, they look. This case is so thorough, they're not leaving any stone unturned, really. And I think this is why the family's a bit private over doing more interviews and stuff about their child going missing, because of all this false allegations, these allegations that keep coming out. You know, it's a difficult thing, isn't it, to be told that your son not just disappeared, but he's probably dead. And then you have all these people coming forward. It could be this paedophile, and listen, it could be, right? It could have been. But so then all this continues coming at this family. It's very difficult, isn't it, that they are trying to deal with this grief of their family, of their son, because they know he's not coming back after all this years. They know that, but they still want to know what happened. But it's your hopes are being put up every time these are coming forward and the police are searching. They think, right, you know, we're going to find something out here now, and it just doesn't happen. Now, I think his father died in 2014. Another case, isn't it, where we have parents now passing over before they find out what's happened to their missing children. All I can say, if you know anything about Philip's case, credible, right? Credible evidence that you feel is important to this case and that may find him or give any idea of what happened to this child. It would be really, really great if you could come forward with any information you have, and I'll put the information up there for you to look at. This case is a sad case, really is, you know. 1986. This boy just went missing. That was it. Came home from school to get a bit of lunch, went back to school, or on his way back to school, was taken, abducted, and to this day has never been seen again. Shocking, really, isn't it? Shocking. So anyway, you know what to do. Thumbs up if you found this case interesting. You can subscribe, you can hit the bell button, you can hit the like button. It would be very appreciated if you do that. I would like it so much. But more importantly, what I would like is that you share and talk about this case. Look at the pictures, research them yourself if you'd like, but try and get it out there about these kids, because this kid deserves to come home, doesn't he? His family is still waiting. And I wrote a thing the reason I wrote the thumbnail with what the mother said on it is because she waited for this boy to come home, left the landing light on, or the hallway light on, for this lad. She expected this boy at some point to walk in that door, and he never did. He never did. And it's a heartache, isn't it? And the heart-wrenching photos of the mum and dad that I've used. I have used one of them photos because I want to make it quite clear that this, when a child like this goes missing without a trace, this is what people end up with, this broken-hearted. I think, and when people are waiting for a child who's missing to come home, they are waiting, aren't they, for that knock on the door or that turn of a key, or, you know, some of these people never move on. They never move house. They never do anything because they want this child to know they're still there waiting. And over the years, as people pass on, like Philip's dad has now passed on without knowing what has happened, it's really heartbreaking. So I really think if you really know anything about this case, it would be greatly appreciated if you say it. So again, thank you for watching.